Hello and welcome to another episode of The Weekend with Candor Beach. Today we've got for you more AI, more inflation, and partnership news in the offing in India. So let's kick things off with the AI. Sam Altman, a week or two back, talked about his $7 trillion chip dream and about basically how we are going to be, because AI is going to scale, we are going to need more hardware. So, what are some of the implications that we've seen so far?
So one of the major implications coming up is the Sora, right? The Sora,
Yeah.
text to video, which is makes up to 60 seconds of videos with using AI.
Hmm.
It's actually revolutionary. It's as revolutionary as ChatGPT when it just launched. So I do get it. There are other text to video AI models, but I think this one's gonna take the king role. It's gonna climb up to the
Because
top.
it's from OpenAI and OpenAI is already a trusted
Exactly.
source. Hmm.
So have you used it? Have you used Soda?
Sora is only open for to a small group right now, so no.
Okay. So there was this post online by this guy too. The
Mr.
Sam
Beast?
Altman. He was no Sam Altman saying that he actually produced. He took a sentence from online, by one of the founders of Cred, Kunal Shah, and he actually created a small video. Basically, it's like I'll link it in the description, but basically, he was able to do it, and it comes out really really good. It's like it's going to be the next new thing, right? For um, video modeling.
I mean, it's certainly going to be new, whether it's more impressive than existing tools. Like, I've got Resemble AI. I think Resemble was one of the
Mm,
first text to AIs that came up.
mm,
Then you've got 3D model generation with Cascadeur. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Cascadeur. Uh,
mm.
there will be competition. There'll be strong competition. And we've seen that in this industry, there are a lot of partnerships or outright purchases made by the really big players like Google and such.
Yeah.
Google already has their own systems, and I'm sure they'll just, I don't know, develop their own stuff. Move AI, Reclaim AI, like
See, when you talk
Resemble
about
AI. You're
competition,
just
right?
gonna, yeah,
When you talk about competition, we have Apple also coming up with a large language model with Ferret B.
yeah.
How well is it going to, be a competitive tool?
So
Will be
Ferret
a major, yeah,
So Ferret has this advantage where, since it's built by Apple for Apple's hardware, it'll be easier for them to deploy, for Apple to deploy these on devices and on Apple
hmm
devices, and that's going to be a massive value offering. And since AI, first and foremost, relies on data, right? Like it's a predictor first and foremost. Uh, so when Apple launches this on devices, the data collection is going to be all that. I don't know whether it is going to influence it, but Apple has a lot more data to play with than I
yeah,
imagine some of these other systems. Now, I'm not saying that OpenAI has any less data, but I would imagine, considering the number of iPhones out there, or considering the number of Apple users out there, Apple has a lot of data to play with. Secondly, the amount of energy consumption, since since Ferret is built for Apple by Apple,
yeah, the
the energy
ecosystem
consumption is
integration.
much smaller. So
Yeah, I
so
do
higher
agree. The
efficiencies, that's going to pose a strong threat to, well, Gemini and
yeah the Bard is Gemini now. So
yeah.
I mean, I do agree with the ecosystem integration with Apple. Um, it's good that Apple actually came up with Ferret B and not depending on other, like Google or stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's
S-
that on AI.
What are your next major things we're talking about today?
I think we
What
should hit
catches your
up
eye?
I think we should hit up Gautam Adani. Like last year, this time
Mm,
around, You and I held positions in Adani Enterprise,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
were most definitely unhappy about it because the Hindenburg
Hindenburg, yeah.
report hit us hard, hit Adani hard. This year around, it's almost back to the price that it had the highs in January,
Mm-hmm.
December-ish. Like, I think at that point in time it was hitting 3,800, 4,000. I think that was where we had bought, if I remember correctly. Adani Enterprise is at 3,200 right now. Adani is doing well, solid, and it's getting new projects. Recently won a project to redevelop Dharavi, the slum in Bombay. Now
The
it's
biggest slum in Bombay.
the biggest slum in the world, right? Or in Asia or something of that sort.
Yeah, in Asia, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I should hope the only slum in Bombay. Don't want Bombay to imagine Bombay having a lot of those. Now, they are redoing Dharavi, but they've recently won a proposal to redo Bandra, like a Bandra reclamation area, sort of a residential project.
Mm.
They look to be transforming the landscape of Bombay, like at least bit by bit.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big deal.
See, looking at Bombay, there is a lot of lot is happening. We got that new Atal Setu bridge, which actually connects the heart of Bombay with the mainland. Like
With
if
Navi
you think
Mumbai,
about
right?
Bombay, yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, for our listeners, Bombay is like the island. Like the Manhattan boroughs, like or the New York boroughs. So the Atal Setu Bridge is like the Lincoln Tunnel, which connects New Jersey with New York. So Navi Mumbai is the mainland, and Mumbai is like the boroughs. So connecting is, and they actually brought down for like 2 hours of driving to what 20 minutes, and one of the best. It's actually really good. So if you think about it, there is a lot of happening. A lot is happening in Mumbai. So and with Adani, he's offering about what 321 square feet per um, family who was in the redevelopment program, Dharavi redevelopment program, which is
Right.
great, right? So they basically live in a very small piece of
No,
land, and
juxtapose
now they're
this for
getting in.
one second.
Yeah.
Juxtapose this for 1 second with what's happening in California.
Oh.
You've
Yeah,
got
California is.
homelessness shooting
Yeah.
through the roof in California. And I don't know, like maybe some other states in the US as well. I forget who was there was a congressperson or some politician you'd sent a video of who was
Mhm.
talking about a shit tracker, like human feces.
Yeah. So it was a debate between Gavin Newsom, the mayor of no, the governor of California, with the governor of Florida. They were comparing both the states, and they were talking which one's better. So they were having a full-fledged debate. And Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, pulls up a map of this app which shows where there was human feces reported, and basically entire San Francisco was brown, and he was showing that, and Gavin Newsom had nothing to say. He didn't have an answer. What is he going to say? That is the truth.
I mean, homelessness, drug usage, it's
Yeah,
apparently shooting through the roofs in California. And now here, like, there were conversations about India maybe taking the forefront in the whole global conversation. Now, with aspects of California versus what India is trying to do, there was the speech by our Prime Minister Modi, who talked about bringing in better educational institutes within India, setting up more medical schools, engineering schools, business schools, and ensuring that, like, I think in his words, it was more of ensuring that uh, the hard-earned money that parents have saved is reinvested in our country, and like to
yeah,
provide world-class education within our borders, as opposed to having our citizens flying in, and like we both have studied in the US. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean,
and I've
it's stopping a brain drain, so that is actually very good thing, So I mean, the thing is, at least we did study in the U.S. and came back and supporting the Indian economy. So, and I would suggest a lot of my friends to do that too, like support the Indian economy than rather stay outside the country.
yeah, there are no visa issues here. You are
Yeah.
a citizen. Yeah, but but honestly, like people have been leaving for more than just education, right? Like the quality of life,
Mhm.
sometimes safety, security. Like a friend of mine had breathing issues, and she lived in Delhi, Gurgaon, and the AQI there is horrendous, as opposed to a place like California or France, where like I went on holiday there a few years ago, and the AQI was in like 30 or less, 17, I think, as opposed
Yeah.
to India, where it's like 100 plus wherever you go.
Yeah.
So that's still something that we are going to have to chase down. That's still something that I don't know if India is going to get there anytime soon. Like not without a big push, like with China and Beijing specifically. They set up towers to reduce, like to improve the air quality. We are going to have to identify issues and then tackle them one by one. We are going to have to start doing that as opposed to, I don't know, like monkeying around at times. I feel like that's what
Yeah.
our politicians tend to do. Anyway,
So
so there's
what about
this,
this partnership?
yeah, tell us about it. There's Volkswagen and Mahindra, right?
Yeah, so if you think about it, there is a lot of this electrical car push. Every company is launching electrical cars, EVs, and one of the biggest starter was Tata Motors, which actually brought in Nexon, right? So it was one of the biggest hit cars in India,
Because it was one
um,
of the earliest. It had
earliest
first movers
and
advantage.
pretty cheap. About what? It was like 15 lakhs, 20 under 20 lakhs, which is about under $18,000, right? So, and on top of it, Tata has one of the biggest network of charging ports. Yeah,
And
because
it's a
Tata
trusted
Power.
brand. Tata is one
Yeah,
of the biggest brands in India.
yeah. So to compete all this, Mahindra launched this car, Mahindra XUV 400, which is totally EV. And now the partnership is to actually proliferate more cars, electric cars, with Volkswagen. Mahindra and Volkswagen are, trying to partner to build components for electrical cars.
Right. And what do you think is the future of electric cars? Like, I always believed that the more capital that's being invested in a specific area, the more likely it is to thrive or at least, exist into the future. I wasn't entirely right with the metaverse push. At least I haven't been proven right just yet. Because I think 2 years ago I'd predicted that 2 years, like 2021 sometime, I predicted that the
Mm-hmm.
metaverse was going to be a big thing because, and I cited Zuckerberg's expenditure, saying that if Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook is willing to spend as much as they are, and there's this website that tracks Chinese luxury, Jing Daily. They talk about luxury brand collaborations on the metaverse all the time. Nike's purchase of I forget the name of the company, but Nike bought in a digital brand that would create digital art. You have a lot of people still focusing on creating digital art, selling NFTs, selling the metaverse. I was very bullish about this space. Now
Mm.
Bitcoin is coming back up. I don't know whether that's any indicator of whether the metaverse is going to come back up. Ideally, they shouldn't be coupled. They are separate ecosystems, but there was a huge expenditure there. I
I'll,
don't know
I'll,
whether electric vehicles are
I'll
going to be
give
as
it to
big.
you on one thing. So Metaverse didn't take off as we expected it to, but then Meta, its stock price came back up. It
That's
actually, you
that's
know,
because
um,
that's because of a certain pivot it looked into, also like repurchase of stocks, dividends for the first time ever. Like, there were
Yeah,
other instruments
and
involved.
cut down on employees. So there was a lot of saving in that. So yeah, a lot of companies did that, right? So they cut down on employees and their profit margins went up.
Right. So, but we were talking about the Vision Pro, or we were talking about AI. We weren't talking about the Vision Pro.
Mm.
The Vision Pro dropped earlier this month, and there have been returns based on the fact that it was either perceived as too expensive or created, like there was a certain degree of dizziness or discomfort that people experienced, which was why they were returning it. But the Vision Pro as a product, like the Quest Pro as a product, that is your gateway into the metaverse. So I feel like the metaverse hasn't fully taken off yet because the hardware hasn't got into the hands of the masses yet. You haven't reached critical mass. But with electric vehicles, I think we are at critical mass, which is why there should be a proliferation of electric vehicles sooner rather than later. There's government legislation supporting it already.
I do agree, but I think, well, I like the Indian policy of, pursuing other alternatives like hydrogen cars, or
Yeah.
the you remember the ammonia cars, or other alternatives, not just depending on EV. But if you look at America, they're going full on EV. They're not even trying to achieve or look at alternatives.
America looks like they've been trying to fix too much too quickly. With liberalization and God knows what else, they're trying to change too many things too quickly. I think that's not a very good idea. The ammonia
Mm.
ICEs that you were alluding to, that's a
Yeah.
Toyota innovation. India, we've been looking at air cells, like battery cells powered by air. We've also been looking at
Hmm.
hydrogen primarily.
Yeah.
Very, very bullish on hydrogen, green hydrogen specifically.
I think, yeah, that's the way to go. Like, you have to pursue alternatives, but keep your core also running. Like EV, like we already talked about it. Elon Musk is planning on coming to setting up a factory in India. So the talks are going on. He was supposed to come to the Vibrant Gujarat summit, but I don't know what happened. But he didn't show
He's
up.
funding lawsuits instead against Disney.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so let's talk
Moving
about
on.
since we talked about America. What do you think? What's going on with the inflation data in American
It's funny.
economy?
It's funny. Like, I mean, it's not really funny. So we talked about this last month, where we said that the
Mm.
jobs report was what 100% more than what was predicted. Like there were, if
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I think it was like 180,000. But
Yeah.
that was predicted. But we saw 300 plus, 300K plus uh, new jobs in the January report. At that point in time, we talked about how with new jobs you are going to have higher inflation. So this was something that we saw coming. The fact that there is higher inflation is going to impact the stock market to an extent. Like it's not going to, the stock market isn't going to just start shooting up because higher inflation
Yeah.
could indicate uh, either the Fed not cutting rates anytime soon or potentially hiking the rates one more time. But the economy has been growing, so like the growth in economy is still solid. So I don't know. I think they're just going to leave it be for now.
I mean, with all this underlying, the Senate approved about close to $100
Ah,
billion for Ukraine and Israel.
what are your thoughts on
So
funding the Ukraine war? Like still sitting halfway around the world and funding the Ukraine war?
so I watched the Tucker Carlson Putin interview, and
The whole of it?
what the whole of it.
Oh,
And what so basically Putin comes out and says he wanted to sign a negotiation, basically stop the war, basically. And he comes up and says, like, I'm not going to give Donbass region regardless, and we'll stop the war, and Crimea still stays with Russia, and Donbass region is his. And America doesn't want that happening. America wants Ukraine to fight. and Zelensky is
Obviously,
going to
because
retire. He's going to retire a multi-billionaire. So with all this,
so he's
that's
literally profiting off of war.
yes. So that's my perspective. That's my opinion, and I think it's already a lost war. Ukraine is losing it. So someday they have to announce it. All this money pumping. So it's like a boomerang thing, right? America is paying money to Ukraine. Ukraine's paying money to the American, defense companies like Lockheed Martin and all the Boeing to, supply them guns. So it's like America is funding its, war engine.
They are.
Yeah. So I mean, that's my perspective. So and inflation is not cooling down with all that, and they're giving
Why would
100 billion. They
it?
want to give 100. They want to give $100 billion to these countries. So
What I
that's
don't
something
get
to think about.
is after all this time, we haven't heard of a plan to pay off debt in any which way. That's just something that's going to come around once a year where they're going to talk about raising the debt ceiling. They're going to posture around. Like, it's frankly getting a little annoying. I don't know if I should be getting annoyed by this fact, because like maybe
America is
debt
at
doesn't matter. No,
34 trillion in debt,
maybe debt doesn't matter anymore. Maybe it's just like a magical
I
thing
guess.
that you wave a wand and it'll all disappear. I don't know. Like, they're talking about all of these donations. They were talking about uh, supplying, like like Ukraine is just a small piece, right? And in the grand scheme of things, like $100 billion is something they're paying Ukraine, but they've been paying Pakistan $40 billion, if I remember correctly, for its
In
anti-terrorism
total,
war.
right? Yeah, sure. Anti-terrorism war.
Yeah, no,
Ah,
like honestly, if you think about it, there are a lot of countries that pay off other smaller countries just to make sure that other countries like China don't build a foothold within them. Like, why does India support Mauritius like it does, despite Mauritius saying whatever they feel like about Prime Minister
Maldives,
Modi?
Maldives,
Oh,
Maldives.
my bad. Sorry. I don't know why I have
Yeah,
Mauritius in my mind. Maldives, my bad. Maldives, Sri Lanka, like India's been supporting them primarily because the alternative is some other countries were to support them, and those
yeah.
ties could potentially hurt us considering geographical positions. Similarly, with Pakistan, America has always seen that area as being fraught with whatever terrorism, and America is trying to make sure that they buy a certain degree of goodwill or what have you. I don't
Since you
fully know.
said since you said geographical positions, what are your thoughts on UK and Japan entering a recession?
I was
They
tangential,
just
but I seem
Yeah.
that as necessary. I seem to be rambling quite a bit today. Um, well, it was only a matter of time, right? Like, with the rest of the world increased its rates, but Japan did not. So Japan was bound to see it. And what is the UK's economy today? Like, they aren't really doing much to grow.
Yeah, it's a surprise. And the free trade agreement with India stopped in mid water. Like it was the thing which was supposed to happen. They wanted a lot of concessions from India, and India was not willing to budge. That was the thing with the present ruling party, right? So in UK, they wanted to do the free trade agreement with India. So
The thing with Rishi Sunak is, like, he has a lot of these intentions, a lot of good ideas, but I feel like people tend to hamstring those ideas quite simply by saying, oh, there's bias because you're married to whoever you're married to, or you have
yeah.
affiliations to India through your roots or whatever. I feel like he's getting hamstrung left, right, and center, and that's not fair.
So yeah. What other minor things are we talking today?
The annual farmer protests.
Oh man. I saw a meme. The farmers pulling up in a G wagon. There
Quite
was a farmer
possibly.
sitting on the G wagon reading a newspaper, and I was like, I don't know how this is a farmer protest.
No, like we have to break certain stereotypes. Like we assume that farmers may seem impoverished because that's the portrayal that we have in our minds from our school textbooks or what some media tend to portray, right? Like they're the oppressed class. We like a lot of people do know this that the farmers aren't necessarily oppressed, particularly the really rich ones. They can they can buy whatever they feel like whenever they feel like because they own large swaths of land. um, the new farmer protest is about guaranteeing a minimum support price. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. Honestly, like if agriculture breaks in a country, you're done for. What are you going to
Um,
eat? So
I
giving them that is
agree,
not a bad
disagree.
idea. No, I am going to add to this though. While we alluded to both of us studying in the US, one of the courses I'd taken was geography. Um, what were they called? Those extracurriculars, I forget. Like the arts and
Yeah,
humanities, one of the humanities
yeah.
add-ons. So in Geography 101, we learned about how American farmers have a minimum support price of sorts. Wheat farmers. America produces a lot
Mm,
of wheat. Now, because the government guarantees purchase of a certain amount and at a certain price, farmers are incentivized to produce a lot of it because the government is definitely going to buy it. You are guaranteed a sale. Why wouldn't you grow that? Now, because they're guaranteed a sale and because demand doesn't meet that supply, uh, America sits on a lot of excess wheat. And this was back in 2009. So 2009, 2010. I don't know if things have changed, but this was what I was taught back then. So America sits on a lot of wheat, and what do? They flood it into impoverished nations as a form of charity, because oh, these people aren't being fed. We are going to distribute wheat there. What happens in these nations? Like, isn't wheat indigenous to Africa, if I remember correctly, or
um,
not
I'm
entirely
not
sure?
sure. Yeah.
But
Oh, go ahead.
America takes this wheat and gives it to Africa. And they distribute it. And that's great, right? Like America is being altruistic, providing for the locals. But what about the farmers in those local regions? What are they going to do? They can't sell their crop anymore because the market is being flooded with free wheat.
Yeah.
So that's something that could be a future. Like you incentivize people with a certain, you should, like capitalism, we live in a capitalistic environment. Capitalism says that you need to fight for yourself. There needs to be a certain degree of support because we are also a socialist country. That's a part of our preamble. But at the same time, guaranteeing a minimum support price unconditionally, I think, is a bad idea. Maybe to a certain extent, maybe for a certain amount of crop, because you'll also have to think about storage, logistics, and distribution, and the potential harm that it could provide, right? Like this chain that I
Hmm.
just talked about with wheat farmers in America. That those are my thoughts about this MSP thing. Good, but to a certain extent. Let's not run away with it.
Yeah. It's gonna cost the government a lot though. If they do approve the MSP, there was, I believe, if they do accept the MSP, it's gonna cost the government 10 lakh crores. So, which is a lot if they guarantee an MSP on, wheat or stuff like that.
Again, to a certain degree, I think that's all right. To a certain amount, like maybe not 10 lakh crores, maybe a smaller amount, it should be fine. You should also have a notion saying that this MSP will be retired in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, when you are self sufficient. It can't go on into perpetuity like reservations in our country. Like the, that is
Yeah.
what destroys a nation.
I mean, that's not going to happen because once you guarantee it, it's going to become an election war cry. So,
That and entitlement. I don't
yeah.
want us to be feeding entitlement. Because we live, like, don't get me wrong, I think so. There are certain principles in socialism that are fantastic, that should be implemented. But we live in a capitalistic environment, and you can't have both. You pick one and stick with it. Socialism will die in
India already
capitalism.
tried socialism and we almost bankrupted in 91. So I think we way past that.
Yeah, because globalization would have, like, we'll get into
Yeah.
that discussion some other time. Anything else that you want to talk about?
Um. Yeah, man. The 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 defense budget
Hmm.
with 84,000 crores. Like India is actually investing heavy in refueling aircrafts because we don't have so much of refueling capability midair. So that is a big push for Indian Air Force. So that's something I wanted to bring it up. 84,000 crores, and a lot of torpedoes, man. So everything we're going to fight in, all the war is going to be in water. So torpedoes is going to torpedo India into the next,
I
like
don't
the
know where you're going
military
with
age.
this, but okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's all I wanted to talk about, the minor thing. You have
Cool.
anything to talk about?
No, we just hit our 30-minute mark. I think we should call it
Oh,
quits.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so
Thank you, man.
much for listening to this episode. And please let us know what you think. Give us feedback. We are hungry for feedback and lunch. Um, all right, see you guys on the
Like,
next one.
comment, and subscribe.
Thank you.